Yes, 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 yes. The Caribbean Cricket Podcast, the Rum Shot Diaries. We're back. Santokie, you know what? Not only are we back, we're independent, baby.
Independent, guys. For those of us following on social media, know we've ended our partnership with CPL, so we're independent. But also, if there's any businessmen or tycoons in on this live stream, feel free to hit us up as well for sponsorship. But Mash, we're here today. We're less than 2 weeks until West Indies kick off their World Cup campaign, and we've got two hot topics, which has got everyone talking. And so we thought, who else better to join in on the debate than our regular friend of the podcast, Nikhil, fresh from commentating on minor league cricket in America with Colin Croft himself. Nikhil, how are you doing?
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Great to be back here as always, and interesting discussion we have on our hands.
But you know what? Before we even get into the discussion, come on, Santokie, come. We got to come correct. Abhinav came correct immediately. Big up, Nikhil. Yeah. Happy birthday out here. The big 20. Yes, Nikhil.
Thank you so much, guys, man. And thanks to everybody that would have noticed and wished me, man. Appreciate all the blessings.
100%, man. So yes, Santokie. And obviously, anybody who's watching live, tell your people, share it, whatever. Some of you will be watching this back because you couldn't make the time to make it live. We understand that. But if you do watch it second time round, do share it with your people, etc. Really helps podcast. But Santokie, go ahead, man. Give the background, introduce the drama.
Yeah, so I guess we're not going to look in depth at the West Indies squad. Me and Machel have already done that. So if you want to see our opinion on the whole West Indies squad, 15-man squad as a unit, go back, check our YouTube channel. We've done a Rum Shot Diaries looking at that. Today, we're looking at two pressing issues regarding players who are not in the 15-man squad for West Indies World Cup, starting in less than 2 weeks. The first one, it's a big one. Jason Holder. Now, Jason Holder, he's in the reserves. So if someone gets injured in the 15-man squad, he can get called up. However, he's thrown a spanner in the works by putting together some momentum in the recently concluded IPL, which has got people talking. Why isn't Jason Holder in the World Cup squad? What sort of travesty is this? And we've got two people here on two different sides of the fence. So we've got on one side, in the red corner, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt arguing that, listen, there's no place for Holder in the side. We don't need him out here. In the blue corner, because he's Bajan, he has to be in the blue corner. Nikhil, he's been arguing. Jason Holder is a vital member of this side. He needs to be in the squad. So let's kick it off. Nikhil, talk to me. Why should Jason Holder be in the 15-man squad? Or even better, if you think so, why should he be in the first 11 for West Indies T20 World Cup side?
Well, I think I've harped on this for so many months, guys, but I'll just go back and say it was kind of hurtful to see, when the team was selected, Jason Holder in the reserves. And I just feel when you look back at the year that in T20 international cricket that Jason Holder had, it really is remarkable in terms of for the West Indies team, his all-round ability with the ball, with the bat. Many will remember, if you want to talk about with the bat, that Sri Lanka series where he came not on every single game, was pivotal in the team winning the series, was even sent up the order at times to play the spin. Remember Fabian Allen giving Holder the strike to face that Hasarango over to win them the game, etc. I just think, you've got the number one test all-round in the world. You've got a man who plays in the Sunrisers Hyderabad team every game of the restart for this IPL. The IPL, this acclaimed tournament that, we look to so highly. If he can make that team where you've got the likes of Jason Roy on the bench, you've got Mujib, you've got international stars, not playing for Holder. I just can't understand how Jason Holder can't make the West Indies team. You look at his numbers for the year, 10 matches. I'm not going to give away everything because I know Masha is going to be coming correct. But 9 wickets in 10 games, average of 20.11, economy rate of 7.24. He then came to follow it up in the IPL. Yes, I'm not gonna dismiss the fact that he was out of nick per se in that CPL, but I just don't think the team was selected on the CPL alone. And by that measure, I don't understand how he's not in the 15.
Go on, Santokie. Sorry, go.
I was going to say that's a comprehensive argument. So, Machel, I don't know what's going to happen when you come face to face with Holder. First, you cussed him out. You cussed him out of the Test captaincy. you led that charge. Now you said, listen, there's no room for him in the squad. Machel, talk to us.
Do you know what? Before I start, I want to check with Nikhil something though. Nikhil, are you saying that he should be in the 15, or are you saying he should be in the 11, the starting 11? Sorry.
Well, I don't match. At the end of the day, the way I see it is that the 11 comes down to the coaching and the captain to select. I think he should be in the 15 and give him a chance to make the 11. If you're telling me that he can't make the 11, fine. But you can't tell me he can't be in the best 15 players from the West Indies in this T20 squad. I just can't see it.
Okay, so let me launch. And in fairness, like let's be fair to Nikhil. There have been comments backing up what Nikhil has said. So I'm just going to show a few on the screen. Contact says Jason wouldn't make my 11. However, how does O'Shane on merit make it over Jason? So I think Contact said he'd definitely be in the squad. And he's backed up by saying he should always be in the 15. Mr. Lover says Holder in place of Fletcher. Brian says Holder, Jason in the 15, but O'Shane would be out for him. I'm just seeing if there's any more. Brian also says Jason ain't coming on the pod anytime.
You never know, boy. You never know.
But okay, here's my counter. I'm gonna be honest and say I did a few videos. I can't remember if they were on our channel. I think one was on our channel, maybe another was on somebody else's pod, where I said that I wouldn't be surprised if Jason didn't make this team. I'm going to be honest and say at the time, I think I actually meant he doesn't get in my first 11. So am I shocked that he's not in the 15? Yes and no. So the yes part is because it's Jason Holder. So how do you not have Jason Holder in the best 15 in 2020 cricket? And Nikhil's right. Let me not try and front. Nikhil is right. If you go by IPL form, which is in UAE, how do you not have Jason Holder there? And it was in UAE last year, was it not? Last year's edition. Yeah. He did well last year. And Nikhil, you're probably going to be shocked, but I've come with stats to back your argument up. This was Holder's stats last year. We're not talking about this year's IPL. Last year, 14 wickets of 17, strike weight of 12, economy 8.32. So based on him performing like that in the UAE last year, there's an argument to say, in the same way how you back Chris Gale to come good, you back Jason Holder to come good based on what he's done in previous competitions. And I totally hear that. I can't not deny that. For me, Holder went badly off the boil in CPL. And it wasn't his fault, but because he was rested for Australia, he basically didn't play in that 15 match international series in the summer. He played against South Africa, wasn't at his best, was rested against Australia. I think he came back for Pakistan, but we basically didn't play any of those matches. So he didn't really feature. That's not his fault, though. And I'm sure Nikhil's going to come back at me and say, but we rested him. Surely we rested him because we planned to have him later on. But the point is he was rested. So there was no, what am I looking for here? There was no body of work other than Sri Lanka earlier on in the year to go, is Jason in top nick? The key question for me is this. Should his poor performance in CPL have removed him out of contention? And Santokie, don't try and get away with saying that you're just moderating this, because I'm going to throw this to you. Should his poor performance in CPL have taken him out of consideration, or was he taken out of consideration because Ravi Rampal did so well? If Ravi Rampal hadn't done well, would Jason have just automatically been in the squad? Do you see what I mean? He got played out of contention because of Ravi. And I'm not going to get into Trini bias because I'm sure someone's going to bring it up in the chat. I'll get to that soon or later. But yeah, I think I'd say that. And then when Nikhil comes back at me, I've got a second point to raise, but I think I'll leave that for this when I get my second goal in the debate. Yes, Santokie.
Yeah, I would say basically, I think Holder was meant to be in the 15. Ravi Rampal just threw a spanner in the works, essentially, by coming how he did in the CPL. For that momentum, that pace he got, that accuracy he got in the CPL meant it was worth a gamble having him as our standout specialist bowler in the side. So I think Ravi Rampal coming good, and to an extent Roston Chase, coming good in the CPL essentially through Jason Holder at the back of the queue, and it got to a point where you can't. Where the coach probably thought, where can you fit Jason Holder in our 11? If you can't fit him in, what's the point of maybe having us in the 15? A lot of people are saying Holder in for Fletcher, but Fletcher's the backup wicketkeeper. He serves a different purpose in that 15. Holder, if he's not going to make the 11, what exactly is the point of having him in the 15?
That's an interesting argument. I want to hear what Nikhil says to that, you know.
Well, just on your earlier point, Mash, in terms of the Australia series, that's to me what baffled me the most, because yes, you need him in all three formats, fine. But when you tell someone that, you know, we want you to take a rest so that you're up and ready for other series of cricket, etc., I assume that the person gets the impression that, okay, well, clearly I'm in the plans. Because if you're going to tell someone that, you know, there's not certainty that you're going to make the World Cup team, obviously I'm assuming that Jason Holder would want to stay there and fight for his place by playing in that series. So when you sort of tie his hands, or you give him no choice, because you tell him to take a rest, we need you for Test cricket, we need you for one international T20 cricket, but then when it comes to picking the team, you don't factor it in. The next thing is this: fine, you want to factor the CPL in, but there are so many other things that you can raise if we're factoring in this one CPL for Ravi Rampal to get him in the team. I have no problem with him being in the team, yes, being the leading wicket taker, etc., one of the leading wicket takers in the CPL. But there are a lot of other names, I think, that if you were just picking the team based on CPL, would have a chance to be in the reckoning. What I will say is, I think we need to be a little more practical in our selections. The IPL is being played in the UAE. You brought up his stats from last year. If you look at his stats this year...
Yeah, hold on. Let me bring them, Nikhil. Let me bring them. There you go.
The 16 wickets at 15 with an economy of less than 8 and a strike rate of 12. Now, my thing to this is, you know, you looked at last year, he did well. The beginning of the IPL this year didn't feature much. As soon as the IPL came to the UAE, Sunrisers automatically knew, you know, the effectiveness of Jason Holder. And when I looked at the three grounds individually, somewhere like Sharjah, which is the smallest of the three in the UAE, he has got 10 wickets in 4 matches at an economy rate of 6.13 and an average of 9.8. And that's the smallest ground in the UAE. So I just think I look at the effectiveness of you know, the UAE, and I'm not necessarily comparing the West Indies to Pakistan, but why is there not a way that we can, you know, make a change based on what we're seeing to facilitate us going forward better with conditions? Pakistan made 3 changes to their World Cup team before announcing the deadline. So my thing is that even if you felt, you know, you were very uncertain about him after that CPL, you see the way he's come to the UAE and bowled and performed for Sunrisers in both at the power play overs and at the death, because you remember recently against Bangalore, he bowled the final over, which defended, I think it was some 9 runs, etc. So I just think when you look at how he performed in the UAE, that to me would have given me the reassurance I needed to see him in the squad.
Now, that's an interesting argument. And before I come with my counter, I think Santokie should answer this next part, actually, because Santokie's trying to be the kind of middle guy here. Should we have waited longer? Well, no, the deadline was the deadline, but there was a second deadline, Santokie. So Nikhil raises a valid point. Knowing that IPL was going to be in UAE, should we have applied some common sense with the initial squad and then done a Pakistan and being like, hold on a minute, we've messed this up slightly? I don't think we should have, just because I think that sends, I don't know, that suggests like you're not planning properly. Yeah. Yes. And obviously, we haven't even spoken about Narine, because people look at what Narine and Jason have done and gone, wait a minute, have we messed this up? But out of principle, I think it looks chaotic if you make last-minute changes, even if it was for like a Narine, for example. What are you saying on that, Santokie?
Yeah, 100%. If you look at the two sides who have made changes, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, the two sides who are more chaotic than West Indies, I don't think you'd want to follow their template. You've got to stick to a philosophy. If Simmons made last-minute changes, it gives the impression he doesn't know what he's doing, essentially. So you've got to back the players you've initially picked and go with your philosophy, which is what they've done. And we'll come on to later, they've stuck to their principles when it's come to Narine as well. So fair play to them. They've obviously looked at team harmony and being consistent with their policy going forward. So I think it was the right move not to shoehorn Jason Holder in based on his the recent performances in IPL.
So this is my counter to Nikhil's point. And by the way, Nikhil, I think all your points are valid, to be honest. I'm not actually gonna disagree with what you said. So then this is my one counter. what would be, Jason's role in the side. Now, Santokie, you made reference to a few people in the chat saying Fletcher out, but I think we've got to be realistic about this. Every player has a defined role in the team. So Fletcher is a backup wicketkeeper. How can Jason replace the backup wicketkeeper? Simmons is the designated opener. So how's he going to replace him? And technically, Fletcher's backup wicketkeeper / backup opener, not with Chris Gale notwithstanding. Bravo, Dre Russ, Fabian, and Pollard to some extent are the all-rounders. And I don't see how Jason gets in front of any of those four. So then you look at, so where does Jason fit? He's not getting in front of Obed McCoy because Obed McCoy is if he's fit, Obed McCoy is a certainty. So the only place I can see Jason fitting in the side is the one quote unquote fast, medium fast, whatever bowler. So that means you're looking at Ravi, Jason, O'Shane. Now, and Nikhil, I hate that's what I said. Your stats from IPL are valid based on what Jason's produced. But I just wonder. I think Brian Gakul said it. Let me see if I can find that point he made because this is what I think happened. Here we go. Was it this point? I think he made 2 points. Now, this is open to debate. Brian says Ravi is a better overall bowler. Now, I personally agree. So let me put respect on Ravi Rampal's name. Based on CPL, and then maybe we shouldn't be based on CPL, but also put respect on Ravi's history as a bowler. And also, can I just remind everyone what Ravi did in Super 50 as well? And I think that's what also played in their mind in terms of Ravi's selection. Whether it should have done or not, I think that's also played in their mind. My theory is that they believe that Ravi, can bowl power play, post power play, middle overs, death overs. I think they reckon that Ravi can be bowled at any stage of the innings and Jason cannot. I don't know if that's the answer. I'm just saying that's what I think they might have done. Before Nikhil comes at me, Santokie, what do you reckon on that one?
100%. I think a lot of fans as well seem to have the impression that Ravi Rampal was just sitting in the wilderness for a few years. If you think even before the Super 50 last year, he was the leading wicket taker in England T20, the NatWest Blast. He's performed in England domestic scene, which is very competitive. He always comes up with the goods. He's someone I'd back as a better bowler than Jason Holder. And for me, there's no debate whether it's Rampal or Holder.
Nikhil?
Yeah, I'm actually perplexed. I can't believe that this is actually that we were saying this, and I don't know what's it based on because we're looking at CPL and we're looking at NatWest T20 Blast. Fine. What about international cricket, Santokie? Does that? I mean, the guy is proven in international cricket. Now, don't get me wrong. Ravi Rampal, he was part of this last World Cup team. He's had great success, but that's also 6 years ago. So I think I need to see something a bit more recent at that high level. Now, I'm not taking anything away from him. I think, as you mentioned, Mash, the fact that he was able to take the most wickets in the Super 50 and the fact that he, took one of the leading wicket takers in the CPL, fine. I'm not saying it doesn't necessarily have to be Rampal. I don't know who it will be. My thing is that Jason Holder has to be in the team. And you asked about his role. Well, those 4 all-rounders that you called, none of them to me can bowl the new ball. And we say, okay, Jason Holder, he can only bowl the new ball. But when you look at the IPL, and I actually tweeted about it when he played in that RCB game, and he defended those 9 runs in the final overs at the death in the IPL this year. 14 wickets in 15 innings. Sorry, this is overall career in overs 15 to 20. Average of 9.78 and an economy of 8.65. So I don't understand the whole theory of people saying, he can't bowl that in the death because he executes Yorkers, etc. Yes, he wasn't at his best in the CPL. And as I said before, I'm not necessarily saying it has to be for Rampal. It could be for O'Shane Thomas. It could be for anyone else. I just think you have Jason Holder and Sheldon Cottrell both in the reserves. My question to the West Indies selectors would be, who bowls the new ball? I think the power play is, you look at a ground like Sharjah, for example, and I hate that I'm always, referring to the IPL, but obviously because this is what's happening now, it's what we're going to reference because of the World Cup in a couple of weeks. Every team that's won the power play, as in who scored the most runs in the power play overs, has won the game at Sharjah this year. So my thing is that these power play overs, you've only got 2 outside the circle. They're so critical. Who do you guys think will be able to bowl those first 6? And I think that's going to be a big area where we struggle in this World Cup. If we don't get things right, you're going to ask Andrew Russell to have to come and bowl. We know Obed McCoy is so good, but because of his variation, we like to keep him and Bravo for the death. So it then means that Ravi Rampal, who, mind you, yes, he can bowl in the power play, but interestingly enough for TKR at the CPL, he did not bowl all his overs in the power play. He bowled a lot of them towards the middle to the back end of the innings. So I don't know if Kyron Pollard, who's captain of TKR, wasn't even bowling him all with the new ball. I remember one of the games, I think he was upset because he wanted to bowl the new ball, but Pollard actually decided against it. So that would be my fear, and that's where I think Jason Holder fits this team.
So let's jump to the crux. And again, Nikhil, not denying that you've made some good points there. Personally, in terms of the power play, the thing is we're stacked. We could see Bravo bowl in the power play for all we know. It wouldn't surprise me if Fabian Allen bowls up front.
Gale might pop up with 1 or 2 overs.
The thing is, the one thing we can't accuse Pollard of is not being innovative in his approach to how we use our bowling resources. And in fairness, over the summer of cricket, the one thing that was really good to see is that the thing that we all thought was our weakest suit was the bowling. And actually, that was the strongest thing in all the games that we played, that we looked actually not well stacked, but our resources were used well when it came to bowling for the West Indies in the summer. So let's wrap this one up. I know there's lots of comments still, but let's wrap this one up. Even if we said Holder in, who's out? And now I know the obvious answer is O'Shane Thomas, but I'm not even saying O'Shane because O'Shane obviously has been picked as like the actual fast bowler. I don't even think O'Shane will play, but he's been picked as the one out and out fast bowler. So if we said Holder in, who's out? Santokie, you go first.
It would have to be Thomas. I can't think of anyone else in who you'd swap for Holder. It would have to be Thomas, but I agree with you. O'Shane Thomas is picked as the out-and-out pace bowler, who they might use in one of the group games, but I don't think he'll play that much. But it'd have to be him if you're dropping Holder in.
Nikhil?
For me, it's Rampal. Yes, I know he had a great CPL, but I just think, international cricket is very different to the Caribbean Premier League. Jason Holder's played international cricket. We all know that. He's played this year, 10 matches, been able to perform relatively well with the ball. So I'm back in the international experience.
No one.
You know what's interesting though? It'd be interesting to see, because Jason Holder's the only multi-format player in his side. So it'd be interesting to see, he's hindered at it. It'd be interesting to see if he sort of reduces or gives up on Test cricket to kind of focus on T20s now, going forward, because I think him balancing all 3 formats is obviously to his detriment in T20s. So he might just think, let me become a franchise guy and make my way back. Well, remember, there's a World Cup next year as well. So we could see him reduce or even give up on Tests within the next year, to be fair.
If he gives up on Tests,
go on, Nikhil.
No, I'm just saying, if he was to do that and give up on Test cricket, well, that leaves a very big hole. He's the number 1 Test all-rounder in the world.
But also remember, we're going straight to Sri Lanka after the World Cup. So in that T20 squad, it's basically Holder and Chase you expect to be going to Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And there's no rest in between for that. So it may well be that Jason is thankful for the rest when push comes to shove, when we have to then go to Sri Lanka to play the Test matches. But you know what? Good discussion. Obviously, everyone, we've seen you in the comments. Sorry if we haven't been able to put all the comments up, but you lot are talking amongst yourselves anyway as well. So we see you. Keep it going. Santokie, that's Holder.
So now we're moving on.
The second one.
Listen, so this one erupted yesterday. Obviously, Sunil Narine hasn't played for West Indies in about 2 years now in any format. Hasn't played an ICC tournament since 2014. We were expecting him not to be in the West Indies side, but the plot thickened when Phil Simmons revealed he'd failed the fitness criteria, which was the reason. So he'd made himself available, failed the fitness criteria, which none of us sort of expected. So obviously he's not made the squad. However, yesterday, one of the all-time great performances in the IPL for Kolkata. Took how many wickets? 4 wickets, I think, including Maxwell, Kohli, clean bowled Kohli. Unbelievable stuff. Then with the bat, he hit 3 sixes off his first 3 balls. Ridiculous performance, all-round performance. And it's got people talking mash. Should Narine be exempt from the criteria set for the West Indies squad and be shoehorned into the World T20 side? Bearing in mind, at the moment, he's the leading spinner, probably the greatest spinner of all time in the format. do you grant an exception to him and put him into the squad? Nikhil, Machel, let's hear your thoughts.
I'm going to go first because I want to back something up Nikhil said. Big up Natalia as well. I know, follower of our pod. She says that she thinks, and that's why I'm putting Natalia's comment up, because this links into how I want to start. So Natalia's saying she thinks Narine's fitness criteria excuses are cover. Right. So let me... Oh, sorry, Santokie, the thing you should have said as well is on his Instagram yesterday, Narine put a post, and because he got man of the match, I think, for that performance, and I think his comment under the post was something like man of the match for fitness or something like that. So clearly that's a dig. Clearly that's a dig at Cricket West Indies. Now, what is interesting about Narine is how little people are talking. How little people are talking about it. But when I say people, I mean the people that matter. No one's mentioning anything. The fact that no one's mentioned anything tells me that there's more to the story than we've been led to believe. Now, what I'm about to do, for those who are watching, listening, etc., is I'm going to say what I believe has happened. This doesn't mean it's facts, but I believe I'm 75% correct on this. Sunil Narine didn't fail a fitness test. Sunil Narine didn't take a fitness test. That's my personal belief. Now, when we say didn't take one, and Santokie, you know what we're going on about here because you and I have discussed this. When you're a franchise player and you no longer represent West Indies, and you're not even contracted to your franchise back home, when would you take the fitness test? Let's just deal with that first. When would you actually do it? You would have to, surely, you would have to make the time to come back to the Caribbean and take a fitness test because you're not involved. You're not involved with the Maroon. You're not involved with your home franchise. Now, I just wonder, did Sunil do all he could have done to show he wanted to be in the World Cup squad? My understanding, and people don't ask me why or how I'm getting this information, my understanding is that that Sunil did declare that he wanted to play, but that declaration to play came late. Now, the question then comes back full scale to what you posed at the start, Santokie. Should Sunil get an exemption? So I'd always been of the belief that if Sunil declares that he's ready, he's going to get picked. But do you know what? And Nikhil, I'm coming to you now. Credit to Cricket West Indies, because Nikhil, I don't know if you remember that pod way back in our beginning days when you came on and you said there is a process, there is a criteria that you have to follow for every player. And you know what, Nikhil? It's nearly like 2 years later, and I'm going back to what you said, and you were spot on, Nikhil. You were completely correct. You have a policy. I think you were saying it about Bravo about a year and a half back, Nikhil. You have a policy, and you either stick to it or it's a mockery. So we lose Narine, and we don't want to lose Narine. But if they bend the rules for Narine, what's the point in the policy, Nikhil?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think he's a must-have in this West Indies T20 team. And when I say that, I'm not saying as in, I need him to play in this World Cup. I just think if he was playing for the West Indies, his effectiveness, is something that I think, as we can see, as you mentioned at the beginning, Santokie, like, you look at this IPL, how important he is of a player for Kolkata. I just think, as you said, Mash, there is more to the story. I'm not sure, so I don't want to speak on the full thing because I don't know the actual details. But from the beginning, I've always said, if he wanted to play in this World Cup, I would have liked to see him in some international games this year. And I think the minute he was either declared that he wanted to play or fitness, etc., because don't be fooled, he has battled a lot, one with the finger, then the remodeling of his action, also wanting to play in franchise leagues, etc. So I think it's a very tough one. I just think, if not in this World Cup, because I don't see a way of him getting in. I see some people in the comments talking about October 15th, but I don't think he'll be able to get into this squad. I think the West Indies should really prioritize getting him in the team for the next one. Now, that being said, I'm not saying bend the rules or, just put him in. I'm saying try to work with him and build something where he gets to international cricket, can play some games under his belt, gets back that confidence in his action again, and is able to go to the World Cup. But I don't know enough to be able to say that, to be able to speak on the situation. But I can only go by what they're saying. And if he didn't pass the fitness test, well, I'm sure they will work in the future to try and get him. But I think he needs to be in the T20 team. I say that all that to say, I think we need him.
Santokie, see this comment here, and then you come in on this one. So Natalia says he can't just walk back into the side without any international cricket, especially after continuously saying he wasn't ready for international cricket. And in fairness, Natalia has made this point to us on Twitter before when you and I were running our mouth about Narine. So what are you saying?
No, I think for T20 cricket, I don't necessarily think you have to have a run of international cricket. I mean, if you're someone of Narine's caliber, he's proven himself in IPL, which is a higher standard than international cricket, in my opinion. And just his legacy, and as Nikhil alluded to, his ability to evolve despite all the obstacles placed in front of him with his action and his finger. He's constantly evolving, constantly developing his game. He's someone who, if he was available and if he'd matched the criteria, I'd have him in the side without a doubt. First 11. He's a match winner in the format. So it's a big blow. But Mash, I agree with you. If you set about a policy, you have to be consistent. It might reap short-term benefits in bringing Narine in, but long-term, what message does it send to the players? And a lot of people will say, if he didn't take the fitness test, then he didn't fail it. Why did Simmons say he failed it? If I have an exam at school and I don't show up, I'm not passing that exam. So that's essentially what Simmons was saying, why he failed the test. So it's an interesting one. It sheds a lot of light on the fitness policy, but credit to Phil Simmons for sticking to his beliefs and philosophy in terms of the criteria, because it probably would have been easier for him and everyone to just make an exception and say to Narine, listen, you can come based on who you are and your performances in the format throughout the past few years. But he stuck to his guns. He sacrificed that for the benefit of the team. And I think long-term it will reap rewards for Cricket West Indies.
Now, just to address something, again, like I say, I'm not 100% on this, but I'm led to believe that Narine did tell Cricket West Indies he's making himself available for this. My criticism of Sunil isn't necessarily whether he did or didn't take a fitness test. My criticism is, and maybe he'll say he wasn't ready, but he should have made himself available for the summer when we played the matches against South Africa, Australia, and Pakistan. Maybe he wasn't ready, but my point is, it's very late in the day to wait till whatever point of CPL and say, actually, yeah, I'm on this. And everybody, and I think the only reason I make this point is everybody else was available in the summer. Chris was available. Dre Russ was available. Everybody there's always been criticisms about in the past about playing for West Indies. They all made themselves available for that whole summer of cricket. And I just think that if Sunil was really serious about getting selected for the World Cup, he should have. Whether I'm not, like I said, I don't know if he was ready, but he should have made himself available earlier so that none of this would have been. We wouldn't be discussing this then, because all of that would have been dealt with.
I mean, to be honest, my personal opinion is I don't think we'll see Sunil Narine play at an ICC tournament for West Indies again. I don't think I'd be surprised if we even saw him play in any format for ODIs or T20s going forward for West Indies. I just think the scrutiny on his action, particularly in ICC tournaments, has given a fear factor. And it's a very, very big risk for him to play in it, knowing the scrutiny that he'll face and how it might implicate his obviously future earnings in franchise cricket. So realistically, I'd love to see him again in West Indies colours, but I'd say it's more probable that we won't see him again in it.
I don't know, because I think Nikhil made a good point about after this World Cup, plot the pathway. Because remember, the next World Cup is literally next year. So he's only 33.
It's in Australia, though.
It's in Australia. Okay, so it's in Australia, but he is still our premier spinner. So I think Nikhil's got a point to say, well, okay, you didn't make it this year, but come in for next year. But we'll see. Ultimately, we'll see. But much like with Holder, I'm going to come round to you two again. If Sunil had come in, who's going out?
Anyone. Gale, Pollard. Sunil's my first pick for this squad, based on the fact he's in UAE. He can spin like we've seen it in the IPL, and he can bat as well. Anyone's getting dropped for Sunil for me.
Yeah, I've got to go against what I said about Holder and say what's his role. Because I'm dropping anyone as well. Nikhil, who would you if Sunil had been picked, who would you have dropped out?
Gosh, I don't know. It's a very tough, but I mean, it's tough. It will be an extremely difficult one. I mean, you could look at many names, but I just think, he's so important. Maybe I see like you would have to call someone like a Fabian Allen. And then even him is so difficult to leave out because he had a really good year with the ball. So I would have been interested to see which direction the selectors went if Narine was available. Let's say, you know, in hindsight, he played all the year and was ready for international cricket, but it's not the case. And I don't know. It's a very tricky one. I'm just hoping, you know, we just see his value in all these other leagues. He was excellent in the 100 as well. You know, not really the wickets tally, but he was so economical in a tournament where they really went after bowlers and it was favors the batters in such a big way. So he's just amazing, you know, to watch. And even at the CPL, seeing him close up, it just made me realize, you know, how important he could be to the West Indies in the T20 cricket, T20 format especially. So then when he comes and he is able to hit sixes and even open the batting, because he strikes at 176 in 37 matches for KKR opening the batting. So he's versatile and he's one of those players you really need to have in your team, but it just didn't fall that way. And we have to move forward and sort of look to the World Cup and hope that we can perform at what we have.
Brilliant. So, chaps, before we end this one, I just have one last thing. I don't know if Nikhil knows about this. Santokie, I know you know because I sent it to you earlier today. So, earlier today, a video dropped with Chris Gale on I can't remember the name of the show now. It's show in St. Kitts. If people watching this don't know what I'm talking about, go on our Twitter handle and scroll down our timeline and watch the video. Let me go and just quickly find it. Eat Local with the Universe Boss, right? The Island Tea morning show. So it's a show based out in St. Kitts. And Chris Gale went on there and Contact knows about it. He says, discuss that Curtly Ambrose cuss out from Chris Gale. So Chris Gale went on there and boy, Chris fired off on Curtly Ambrose. He said, Curtly Ambrose, don't call my name out of your mouth again. If I see you, I'm going to tell you to your face. Don't ever mention the universe boss's name again. And Chris was upset. You could visibly see that he was upset. But Santokie, this reminds me of a post you put up on our handle the other day. When Chris feels like his back is against the wall and people are cussing him out, you know Chris is coming after that to show people what he's made of, which is probably for the best. But Chris made a very good point. And Nikhil, obviously, you're overseas at the moment, but you would have seen it firsthand within Barbados. We as a people are not very good at supporting our team. You would think, and this is where I criticize people like Curtly Ambrose. Sometimes I wonder if Caribbean media and former players want us to lose. Sometimes I actually wonder if they would prefer us to not win, given the level of criticism the players get. Santokie, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think with Gale, it's an unusual one because he's one of the greats of all time in cricket. Across all three formats, he's proven himself to be a remarkable player. But the amount of criticism he gets, I don't know whether it's his personality. People think because obviously his playful lifestyle, they don't take him as being serious or dedicated to his craft. But if I'm Chris Gale, 100% every right to be fuming about what people are saying, dismissing him. And we've seen it for the past 10 years. When he's had criticisms, he fires off. He uses it as motivation. Similar to like what Michael Jordan done in the NBA. He fuels himself off that motivation to prove everyone wrong. So it would not surprise me to see him hit a big score against England in the first game of the World Cup, knowing that it's England as well. But yeah, for me, it's unusual. And I think I think it is part of the cuss out culture in the Caribbean to sort of jump first to cuss out the team or cuss out players. I don't know what it is, but that does seem to be the sort of modus for it. And also, with former players, it could be resentment. They've obviously seen Chris Gale lives a lavish lifestyle. He's always promoting himself on Instagram with this kind of stuff. It could partly be resentment about that aspect as well. But for me, it is strange that an all-time great who would be held up in such high esteem if he played for any other country by those people in the country is regularly cussed out in the Caribbean.
Before I come to you, Nikhil, just to give the people in the chat the context for those who haven't watched it yet, it came off the back of Chris actually complaining and saying that people aren't backing the team in general. So he didn't start off by saying it was personal to him. He was actually making the comments that Santokie was making, saying, why don't we back the team? And then after he kind of went in on that, saying that the people aren't backing the team, it's a World Cup where we're the only country / region in world cricket that would rather criticize the team than actually back the team, which I thought was all valid. Then he went into the personal one of Curtly Ambrose, take my name out your mouth, and Nikhil, where do you stand?
I actually haven't seen the video, but what I do know about Chris Gale is exactly what you guys have said. And I remember one thing, January 2020 in Barbados, England versus West Indies. So maybe almost the entire world didn't want Chris Gale in that series. He came, I think he got over 400 runs. Every single time he has a point to prove. He just always puts up his hand. It's something that I give him immense credit for at his age. Not playing, obviously not only playing the T20 international format, but not playing a large amount of international cricket for him to still be able to keep this quality, this caliber up. So I think, he should come good. That's if he starts. That's the next thing, Santokie, but that's a conversation for another day. I just think whenever his back is against the wall, he always is able to churn out those performances. And I'll even go on the record and say, I think this could possibly be why he left the IPL. Punjab, you could just see that they were sort of meandering and petering out, probably not going to make the playoffs. It was always going to be tough. He was not sort of getting that regular game time, regular opportunity. And he probably wanted to get himself ready, which he said he did. And he left the bubble for that reason. And for him to sort of prioritize West Indies cricket over the IPL, which he's been maybe, if not the greatest of all time in that league, I think is a big move and a good step in the right direction. And I think with all these people counting Gale out, if he does come to the world stage and he does get the opportunity, I think we could see him, cause his destruction.
Well, people, you've heard it from the three of us. Like I say, make it your mission after we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. Make it your mission to go watch that. It's on our, like I say, it's on our timeline. Go watch the link. It's quite the watch from the Universe Boss. And as Nikhil alluded to, I think we'll probably record a video on it because that's the next big talking point. We don't have time today, but we'll probably try and drop a next one for you lot within the next few days or week or so. Who plays? Santokie's not talking to me because I said Hetmeyer doesn't even get in my side. Nikhil said that Roston Chase gets in his side. All I know is Chris Gale is playing the first match of the World Cup. So I don't know about you.
Not after the IPL. I don't think so.
I was going to say, Mash, it's a good thing you don't watch the IPL. You missed Hetmeyer working his way into the West Indies team with those finisher performances. So I think that's going to be a good discussion we're going to have in the next episode, guys. Gale, Hetmeyer, Chase, who makes the West Indies squad. By the time we record, it will probably be a mere days before the World Cup starts. So all good for that.
100%. And people, look out for some possible live content because Santokie, he hasn't even said it. He's going to be out in the UAE. He's actually going to be there watching.
Yeah,
I think which games is it, Santokie? Tell the people.
Hopefully, West Indies, South Africa, I'll definitely be at. And then hopefully West Indies against one of the qualifiers in Sharjah. So look out for some content. And should be good out there.
100%. So keep track on the account, people. Tell your friends, tell your peoples, follow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Obviously, follow Nikhil. By now, you all know who Nikhil is, at Nick Uttam, UTTAM. Make sure you go follow Nikhil as well, because he's always hot on the West Indian content. But people, that's been Rumshot Diaries, season 1, episode 9. Look out for some more content in the coming days if you can. Support at Patreon if you're able to. We've gone back independent. We're back doing how we do our thing. So if you can beg us a little change, then do so. But yeah, peace, people, and we'll be back soon.
Later.